Bradford, West Yorkshire, 2022. Known for its diverse food culture, striking moors, and internationally recognised heritage sites and artists, Bradford is a multicultural city in the broadest of senses. It's also the place where I was born and raised and was my home until the mid-noughties. Bradford is unique, intense and difficult to dismiss, and there's a part of me that still resides here. There are 140 languages spoken across the city, and with a growing college and university population, Bradford is now officially the youngest city in the UK. But as someone whose young days are definitely behind them, I've recently become curious about the Bradford of my youth and the changes that have occurred in my own community. As elders from the black community are leaving us, and young black people are moving away from the city for a variety of reasons, I felt compelled to catalogue stories from the Bradford I knew and loved, the Bradford of my childhood, to see if I can glean any communal wisdom to perhaps guide the Bradford of the future. When I was young, Bradford's black community had a definite sense of place, and it was here, in Newby Square. The site has changed with newer housing and families, but I decided to see if there was value in exploring the memories of this much-loved place, and set about having conversations with several people who lived, loved and worked in Newby Square between the 1960s and 1980s. These are their stories.
I was born and brought up in West Bowling, lived on Round Street, and as a kid we used to avoid the bottom part of West Bowling because it was called in those days Little India. It was a series of terrace houses, and all my mates didn't live down there, and I lived up top end. Little India was called Little India because of the street names: Calcutta Street, Bombay Street, Bengal Street. I actually remember though that the film room at the top there on Calcutta Street, part of it, and we all went down to watch and make the film. Quite a famous film actually. But then I remember them knocking it down because it was back-to-back terrace houses and the redevelopment, and they knocked it down.
I moved in when I was 15. I can't remember which month it was, but I'd moved. I was 15 because I didn't have my son until I was 16, and we were already moved in. So, but I moved in then with my then partner, Mikey Roots, and his brother and his girlfriend. So that was my first experience being in Newby Square.
I lived on Rydal Grove, number 28 Rydal Grove. 47 Newby Square, that's just down at the bottom.
We actually stayed at Sonia Lindo's for a short period of time before we got our flat.
There were these other masonette flats and that were smaller than the towers. Because there were the towers, there were the main towers, I think there were 4 of them. There might have been 6, but I think there were 4 of them, yeah? And then the rest of the tower flats and stuff, they were like them 2-story flats. So they'd have a flat where you've got an upstairs, and then upstairs on that, so it'd be like 4 floors or something. You get me? But there'd only be, I don't know, 8 flats in there or something.
I first moved there, if I've got it right, because I was young, it was either 1969, early 1970. I remember we just moved there because my mum had just had the twins, my brothers, and I remember we was living in that house at the time, so yeah, around about that time, yeah. When I moved there, I had some friends from before, and we kind of lost contact. So when I got to Newby Square, I was really happy because I got in contact with my friend, and he introduced me to all the Newby Square lots, so it was kind of easy for me to settle in kind of thing. So yeah, it was really good.
I loved it all, and especially because of who my old man was. In the community, it gives me freedom to be who I am in the community, you get me? I'm allowed to be unapologetically me. I didn't have to pretend to be no one else and be this and fit into this group and that group. I was allowed to just be me, innit? So I loved it all, me.
It was a happy time for me, you know, as a youngster up there. My mum, I'm a child of 9 children, single mother. So it was good. We had to share bedrooms, obviously, with all that amount of family. But living there, I think it was one of the first places I'd gone to live where there's quite a few black people. Because I've lived on, you know, in houses before, but on streets it was mostly other people living there. But that was like the first community of black people where I lived.
Loved it. Loved the house that I was in. It was just like, wow, you know. Everything just seemed big and enormous, and then you're in this community that everybody knows everybody. You knew your neighbours knew you, you know, people pop round for sugar, milk, you know, proper community.
I was like 15, 14, 15. My mum lived in the English area, Alf Road. There were like 2 or 3 black families. That's when I was younger. I had a bit of abuse at school. You know, at weekends I used to look forward to go to Newby Square.
I just remembered everybody going down the hill in the skateboards, getting called in again, and sitting, after getting our baths and everything, we had to sit in front of the window. And it was, for us, the sun's still shining, and we're just watching the kids, the older ones, playing and going downhill, and you're sad, you know? In the summer, and there was, a lot of them will remember this, British Bulldogs, which I saw. I used to remember that was amazing in terms of, it might not be big memories now, but for us at that time it was intense, because it was like, it's only when you got a little bit older I realised that something was wrong with that, because the big lads, what they were doing was getting all the big lads out for, you know what I mean? So all the big lads ended up, and then when you looked and they shouted British Bulldogs, you looked and it was all the small lads that were left. It was like, hold on a minute, this is wrong.
In Newby Square, my earliest memories is like, everyone knew everyone. Like, I was only young, 2, 3, and like, people would be going to shop for other people, like it was mad. Like, they'd be sending lines. I don't know if you know what a line is. It's like a cotton wool thing, where like you can swing it to another window, innit? So you can just... So man would be sending lines and stuff, innit? So man would send a line, they send you to the shop, because you're out on road, and then you send it to them, then they'd be sending it over Dessa and up Dessa and stuff like that. Like it was a mad thing. Like, that's my earliest memory of the thing, of Newby Square, is like people sending lines.
At that time there were like little fads, or you know, things that we used to do. One particular time there was guiders. So they were building, all the lads that were building a load of guiders and everything. And oh, that was amazing. And we all used to go down the hill outside our house, going all downhill, and seeing so many guiders that they all made. All the kids there made their own guiders, small ones, big ones. It was like watching Wacky Races, you know, remember the cartoon? Literally like that.
A little playground, it was just in front of Red Gin, and a rocket. We always remember this rocket. We all used to climb this rocket, because it was literally like 200 yards. So we spent a lot of time in there. We all met there.
Anyone would know what I'm talking about who knows that playground. It was magical. Best way you can put it. You know, this rocket that you'd climb, and you climb to the top of the rocket. Because at the time, when first time with the rocket, you climb inside, and at the top of it, it could only fit like 2 people in, or 1 person. But it had a wooden thing where you can sit in. Well, obviously over the years, that wooden thing were missing. But yeah, once you're in there, and you felt like you were on top of the world, you know, and you could see everything for miles.
And like, there was the playground, which I was allowed to play in. at that age there with my cousin.
Again, playing out at Newby Square, it was fantastic. We did all kinds of stuff. We used to go walking all over the place.
Hopscotch. We had this like a league thing where, you know what I mean, and it was a massive competition, so you had all the big boys and everybody playing hopscotch.
All the simple games, as in like Tig and what's that, hopscotch, and all that kind of stuff there. That was, that was our fun days. Just, sweet memories.
Well, playing out on scooters, gliders, skateboards, and general playing around, you know what I mean?
Used to be a sweet shop in the pub. Used to come in on the right hand side. A Polish guy owned it. He got used to us all. We all got on.
I always remember there was a gentleman who had a lorry, big lorry, and he used to have bales of wool. Was it Roy? Was it? Yeah. So bales of wool, and he'd park up and we'd be just playing on that lorry on these bales of wool and everything, just outside when the actual playground was.
We all got on. A really close community.
I can remember being pregnant and my mum coming on and we're playing rounders with everybody on the street, you know what I mean? And my mum was the biggest cheater going, because if she didn't hit the ball, it wasn't the right ball. But, everybody joined in. Everybody joined in the rounders, it was just big, old, young, everybody joined in.
Everybody get on with each other, when we lived in there. There was never a problem. I can't remember a problem with anyone. And it was a music place, reggae music. Yeah, everybody played music on a Sunday.
Everybody sort of like we're just all there. Everybody played, everybody together. All the kids played. It was just like one big happy family. And like I say, yes, we did have us ups and downs. Yes, there would be arguments, there would be fallout, but it was still like that was still your family.
It was really a close community. And one bloke used to cut people's hair, a bloke called Jeff Rowe, bless his soul. We used to go there for hair cutting.
It was just everybody who you knew, they were there. It was good. And then my sisters moved in, so they were in the tower, so then it was like the family was there, then everybody'd come and visit, and it was good.
In the summer of 1972, I had 6 weeks in front of me with not many plans, and decided to have a look round to see what I could do. And I found an advert in the Telegraph for volunteers at a new adventure playground. So I thought, well, this sounds interesting, and I went down to have a look.
I became involved with MAPA as the youth officer, responsible for not appointing the youth workers there, but got involved with it a little bit.
Most of the people that came to the event came from Newby Square itself. And Newby Square hadn't been up that long, and it was fairly new, but there were lots and lots of people there. And a huge, I don't know what percent was, but it was mainly African Caribbean families, mixed race families, and a few white families at that time.
My earliest memories of MAPA will be like a People's Day. We'd have been out here running on front, mangoes, sugarcane, tunes thumping, pure people.
But once the building arrived, we started opening up on an evening, and it became more of a youth facility.
There was actually a tree and a rope, and you could run and swing round this tree, but if you got it wrong, you'd swing out and then hit the tree back. But these were all amazing. Or you spinning round and then getting back to the platform stuff. But yeah, it was great memories.
People that I still know now, that I still chat to now, that I were running about around this building with, just playing football, whatever, TIG, whatever.
And there was times where to get into Mappa, or Adventure Playground, you could either get in by, if I remember correctly, is it 2p or 5 newspapers? Yeah, you had to bring 5, you know, so I think they were on recycling around that time. So you had to, you know, so I used to ask them, well, got any newspapers instead of the money? So we could give them to get in.
Mappa, that was the main part of the community. That even our parents went there. They had night do's at night time. It was so good. Like I said, we all played table tennis and football. And
table tennis, run around. Remember them games there? Run around. Yeah, man. That man have to drop her back, run around the table, next man pick it up. Boy, like, mad. Mad. But yeah, fun. Fun is what I can say is my earliest memories of Mappa. It's fun. It was fun. It was somewhere where I wanted to be. It was somewhere where I wanted to go. I couldn't wait to get to Mappa. Like, man say, you're going to Mappa? Yes. Like, it was one of them, like, yeah. We're going to Mappa? Yeah, yo, let's go. Boom. I loved it.
But then you had Mappa, you know, and then you had in between that, but then now Mappa's not the same as you know, when like Paul Bowles and all them had it, and you know, it was running. It's not this. Everything changed. You know, people days no longer was. You know, it was just like everything just sort of like died down, and then it wasn't anymore. You know, so then you didn't have that community anymore. It was like there's like a loss.
Yeah, wonderful memories. That's all I can say. People have other memories to what I have, but it was an inspirational place.
All the different migrant communities always felt comfortable in Mappa.
For me, blues is, you know, it started off where black people couldn't go to clubs, obviously because of racism and things like that. So what they used to do is have the parties in their house, in the living rooms. I remember many times we had christenings and loads of people used to come over in the living room. You know, you'd probably have seemed like maybe 200 people in your living room. It seemed that way.
There were so many parties. We used to have a lot of blues, all night parties, and I remember like a lad called Mark Butters, rest his soul, when we were going to his house, and his stepfather was a West Indian guy. He was like half mixed race. We'd come out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. There were 2 or 3 parties at a time.
What used to happen is when the clubs used to shut, people would open up the blues, either in the house or in the cellar or whatever, and they'd continue the party over. So they were our blues, and you know, we'd have good times there.
Always music, always food, loads of food, and it was just fun. I just thought it was absolutely wonderful.
And as time went by, what I'd realised is, well, I forgot to mention as well, in these blues, 9 times out of 10 we'd get raided. You know, police would come in and raid it, shut it down, take away all your booze and your equipment and things like that. But as time went by, as we got to the late 80s, early 90s, what happened in the world, well, not in the world, but the UK, I should say, those things what they persecute us for, having blues and playing music, they took over by having all these all-nighters. You know, they made it legal for themselves, having big speakers, playing music all night. So that's what they've taken away from us. You know, we started with the blues. They made it illegal for us, and then they made it legal for themselves with having all-nighters.
You know, everybody's wanting to listen to music, everybody's wanting to play music, who can play it the loudest, or you know, you'd have this house playing this music, that house playing that music, and you'd have the towers, the windows wide open, and music, you know, pumping out of them, like, you know, really loud. And then everybody be just like, it was just like a little carnival place where everybody would be in the street dancing. These
blues, we heard our own music, you know, because at them times there, you didn't hear much black music, you'd hear bits and bats on the radio, but it wasn't all ours. So that was a great opportunity to find out about ourselves. Again, as part of our culture, some of the things what we heard in the music, we could identify with, you know. So we learnt a lot from our music. Again, we learnt a lot from the blues.
They'd have speakers out on road, thumping things. Do go, do go, do go, do go, do go, do go. You know, just bass line, you could just hear it. Like just dub, yeah, dub, just hard dub.
However, alongside these tales of community and joy, there was another story. After a relatively short period of time, the accommodation began to fail its occupants.
They want to be down.
Why?
Because they're absolutely a waste of time of being built up.
Have you had any problems?
Terrible.
What's
I had the flood.
You had a flood?
Yes.
What was
And
it?
I was without electric for 3 weeks when the flood were here. And I've cracks in every one of my walls. They're not worth bothering with.
Very damp upstairs, you know, in the bathroom especially.
So you would welcome the decision to pull the whole lot down?
Yes, I would, yeah.
I think in 84, 85, 86, they started knocking Newby Square down, but they didn't knock Mappa down. They kept the Mappa adventure playground.
I left because then they decided that they were going to take Newby Square down, and that was where the sort of like the whole family, the community sort of like just split and went separate ways.
It kind of got a little bit notorious, so I believe that's part of the reason why they wanted to tear Newby Square down, and with doing that they kind of dispersed a lot of the black community, so we kind of lost that kind of bond what we had, which is a shame really.
They kicked us out, shut us up and scattered us all over because we had a unit there. And because of that, we haven't got a unit now. And that's why we're having to do what we're having to do right now today.
With every conversation I had, there was a sense that something had shifted in the community. While this might seem obvious given the passage of decades, there was also a feeling that the black community had suffered a specific fracture of something that was irrevocably lost.
And they just like split the West Indian community up. People went to Huddersfield, people went to Leeds. I still see people now in Leeds that talk about Newby Square. Even Huddersfield, just all over.
Like they split us up, and now there's no harmony, there's no unity, and it's hard for us to get things going, for us to get things moving. You get me?
Like I said, I missed it towards the end because I were in the army, I were away. Next minute, while I'm away, Newby Square's getting knocked down. And I think, whoa.
And then when we've left here, my uncle stayed. You get me? He was like, nah, I'm not moving. Forget these man then. Them man then can't keep me out of this thing. He was on Netflix, innit? But obviously, asbestos was in all the things and all the tiles and stuff like that. So it wasn't even a safe place to be, man. Like, expect like a tile cracks. It's no good for none of us to be in there.
I thought it was trying to split the West Indian community. It might have been intimidated by the police. When the police come there, thinking, oh, look at all these black people, oh, a bit like a ghetto. But it wasn't like that. Because they had community leaders. If there were trouble, right, you could have talked to the parents, because them days the parents would whack the kids and say, don't do this, don't embarrass me.
The estate kind of looked after itself. Especially when you speak to all the elders as well, man that elderly, because like I said, I was only a little boy there. I'm 2-3 when I moved out, so I'm only a little boy. I should, by rights, not even remember any of this.
I love that part of my life. You know, it brings back good memories of where I was and how we were as a community, and that's how I saw everybody as a community, that we'd all live together as one, whether you were black, white, Asian, whatever, we all lived together as one, and everybody watched out for everybody else. So that was nice for me, that everybody sort of like get on.
That culture there, that yard culture, not even yard, West Indian culture thing was here predominant, and it set the tone for the thing. You get me? Like that carnival vibe, like it was that sort of flex.
Yes, there were arguments, yes, there were disagreements, but you know, everybody always seemed to come back and we're like one big happy family. I can't express how it was. It just felt like everybody loved everybody. It was that feeling of love, of a tight-knit community.
If I can remember rightly, I think it was there roughly between a year and a half, maybe to 2 years. And I don't know the real reason why we actually moved, but it was something to do with our next door neighbour. She was a bit of a busybody, an elderly lady. And every time my mum went out shopping or whatever, she'd always call the social services and things like that. But I can't remember exactly why we had to move, but we had to move anyway. So we ended up getting a flat in Canterbury. Anyway, something crazy happened, kind of scared my mum. So she didn't take that flat. And then we got another place in a place called Sloane Square. And so we ended up taking that. And that was a major change for me, because I'd left Newby Square, which was a nice, friendly, lovely place. And I went to this place called Sloane Square, what had looked like it had been bombed in the IRA days. And I remember when I first moved, tears just came down my eyes because I couldn't believe where we'd gone to.
I never saw no major trouble at Newby Square. I didn't see there were no riots or nothing major like that, you know. There might have been a few speeding cars. They do that everywhere, don't they? I don't know.
To be honest, I can't really remember any bad times. The short time I was there, it always seems to be happy. The families who I knew there was the Taverniers, the Browns, the Fieldings, the Rose, the James and the other James, the Walwins, the Lamotts, the Flurins, quite a few of them, yeah. So them people there, today I'm still friends with those people, you know, we're talking 50 years so.
Everybody cooked food, put food out, you know what I mean? Everybody chipped in, nobody asked for money, everybody helped each other. Yeah, we're a good community.
I mentioned about the families who I lived up there with, and I probably mentioned it earlier that I'm still friends with a lot of those people today. It's over 50 odd years. I'm still friends with those people. So, you know, we've kept that bond, which is a good thing. And I'm hoping that maybe our future generations can kind of build that, because at the moment, as black people, I see that we're kind of losing it. And when I say that, I'm meaning as in, like, I don't mean all families, but I know for a fact there's a lot of families in Bradford today who've got family and they've never even met them, you know. Some of us might be, biracial, and for whatever reason we've not met our black side. And this is what I'd like us to get on with, really, you know, let everybody get to know who they are, know who their family are, and, you know, it'll probably help us and answer some of our questions in the near future.
You know, every so often you still meet on certain people that you used to live in Newby Square, and they're like, do you remember this? Do you remember doing this? Do you remember doing that? And you go, oh gosh, yes, you know, because you forget certain times, even though you've been there, and you forget little events that happen, you know, and like, yeah, like, I know you from Newby, and I'm like, how? I remember you from Mapper Day. Oh gosh, People's Day, Mappers Day. Of course, you know, getting ready for Mappers Day. Who would get ready for People's Day? You know what I mean? It was absolutely exciting.
I suppose as an Anglo-Indian with hardly any community, well, no community really in Bradford to relate to, and never feeling like I belonged to this white community, this black community was sort of a people that took me in, you know, like, and I felt comfortable with them.
Also, I went to school here, went to Ryan Street, which is now Newby, and I'm a governor at Newby Primary School.
I can remember all the West Indian families. There were loads of big families, Jameses, Grahams, Taverniers, a few Taverniers around there, Dominican, Lloyd, a few Rastas. Yeah, there was a lot of big families. Pat Taylor, Brian Taylor, they all moved up, they moved to Parkside. His mum, Cynthia. Lovely people. Hamiltons, Delroy. There were a lot of big West Indian families. I can remember. Browns, Howard and Tony Brown, they lived there. Their brother Leroy.
I think the challenge is that because there were so many black people in one area, it was always targeted by police. it was always our police chase or police whatever. And I think then it got to be a bit where, you know, you felt like a little bit intimidated that, you know, whatever you're doing, because you're a black person, you're going, and you're in a black area, then it's going to be police this and police that. And so that was the little bit that was a bit uncomfortable.
To me, it was happy. And my kids was happy. They go out to play and I can go to the door and look out and, you know, I see them at the playground or around skating from the hill coming down, and yeah, it was happy to me.
We've always been in this area since I've been growing up. We've had the English days, we've had the Asians, blacks and whites, Chinese, the Polish. I've been around this area because I've been in school with people from Poland and that. I've been from Russia over in my class.
We all got on, because we're all like immigrants as well. There were a few Polish, a few Eastern Europeans, we all got on.
That there was a good time to grow up in. I'm glad to have been a part of it. I'm a bit disappointed that it didn't carry on and we didn't keep the bonds and that, but I am so glad that I didn't miss it.
A lot of people got moved all over Bradford, you know. They got moved up to Wibsey, up to Ollerton, Homewood, you name the area, they put us all over the place.
I think the way people were with each other, thinking about each other and watching out for each other, we don't have that anymore. Like when I was growing up, you know, you'd walk past somebody on the street and it'd be like, hello, you know, good morning, whether you knew them or knew them not. That's no longer, you know what I mean? And so now you can see people and you don't know whether to say hello or hi to them because you don't know what the reaction is going to be towards you. There's that fear thing around now, whereas before, you know, you didn't see the fear of talking to somebody. It's hi, hello, and you'd go on about your thing, but you don't have that anymore. And that same community love for each other is no longer there.
I think one of the best memories of Newby Square I can say is the community.
They all used to teach me something, you know. I mean, I might have been good at dealing with the authorities and stuff like that, but they used to teach me how to cook, and, you know, the stuff has stayed with me all that time, and they were just, I mean, we had such fun.
The way I can explain it, you probably felt a bit cocooned to a point, you know, in terms of the outside world. With Newby Square, everything was all in, and it was a family thing.
Well, they've made sure that there isn't a black community, isn't it? So, you know, they're just scattered all over the place. You don't have that anymore, because anytime you see loads of people, black people coming together, you think of Sloane Square, you know, that was another area that was full of mostly black people. No longer, do you know what I mean? They made sure they moved them out, they knocked it down, they did whatever they're doing with it. They moved the black people out different areas, different places where they're not really comfortable with, you know what I mean? And now people just sit in their own little cocoon shell because of how society is now to what it was then.
What I'd say to the youth then about what Newby Square was, it was a black movement. It was a time of learning as well. Like there were some great teachers out there that was looking to fight for black power and black acknowledgement in just in general, just empowerment. Like there was a lot of them. There was a lot of Saturday schools and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There was a lot of knowledge floating about to better black people.
I miss not being there. You know, I miss not that sort of part of my life where everybody was together as one. You know, that part was, I enjoyed it.
The real community spirit of that place can never be taken away from it. Anyone who knows it will know what I'm talking about. And you mention Newby Square to people, and the first thing they do, they smile. And that tells you everything you need to know about that place.
This journey has been really important to me, and I hope it's been the same for those who were kind enough to share their experiences. It's a journey I hope to continue, as in many ways it's been cathartic. In a time when whole histories are being erased, we need to do the work of preservation to record, underline and celebrate our shared heritage. Sometimes we need to look back in order to move forward.